Welcome in, everybody. I'm your host, Matt Novak. Alongside me, as always, Grant Hawker.
Always.
On the third mic is Jameson DeFore.
Yo.
And joining us once more is our good buddy, Mike Connor.
Hey, hey.
It is the week of weeks, gentlemen, and precisely 72 hours. I will be preparing myself for the first game. It is Monday, Labor Day. We're all chilling at home, got the day off, hanging out with family and friends, but we're taking a little time to continue our preview of the NFL. We're going division by division. Our next one up is the NFC North. Mike's going to be leading us through this conversation. Take it away, bro.
Yeah, and I just want to say, all of you guys that did fantasy drafts before this week, you're dumb. So let's move
Yeah.
on. So we're going to start off with the NFC North here today, and we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions as my first team here. They won the division last year, barely, and are in a good, really good position with returning players that were injured. But the biggest deal is their coaching changes. We have Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn both got head coaching jobs elsewhere. One of them in division, by the way. And I think that's a big deal. I think that creates a gap in this team and how they proceed doing things, how they normally run an offense and a defense. It's going to create some hiccups in the beginning of the year, and I think it's going to hurt their stock. We researched this back to just the Eagles, just 2 years ago, where they started out really good during the season, but as soon as the playoffs hit, they just didn't have the gumption in their coaching staff to kind of carry that talented team deeper into the playoffs. So, and I think it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be a similar thing here. But let's go through a couple things here. Like they lost some key players, cornerback Carlton Davis, Kevin Zeitler, a guard, Zadarius Smith, an edge rusher's gone. Melifanu, a safety's gone. But I think the biggest deal about this Lions team is the center Frank Ragnow just up and retired without any telling anybody, without the team being able to prepare for it. It's like after the draft, it was like during training, like right before training camp started. Frank Ragnow just like I'm done, and that's your center, that's your starting center, like all pro center, and he's just gone. And then one of their rotating defensive ends, John Kaminsky, also retired. So you have some retirements coming into the season that they're going to have to try and figure out how they're going to make up for that. They did bring in DJ Reed and a couple other guys, Roy Lopez, and then they drafted another defensive tackle. They did get a guard to help with that, losing a guard, Zeitler, but he's second round pick. You're like, maybe. He looks okay, but there's not really any other things, any more people that came in because they're kind of capped out, right? They have a lot of money in this team already. So like I said, there's a couple of injuries this year. So what are you guys thinking? How bad from what they had 14 wins last year, I think, and they're over under. Let's go back over there. They have an over under of like 10.5. I think that's still low for the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
10.5 seems really low. I know they have a really tough schedule and their
That's
division is really tough.
Bro.
But going from 14 wins to 10.5 with this team, you get your star defensive end back who didn't play most of last year, right? And you didn't really lose a whole lot except for your big center name, right? Your big center. I feel like this is still an easy over for me. What do you guys think?
I mean, I'm looking at this schedule. So if you remove their division, just their division, they still play the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Rams, the Steelers.
Yep.
Like, apart from
the price for winning the division,
apart from the bloodbath that is still going to be the NFC North,
yeah,
their other games are still going to be bloodbaths. Like that is brutal. And I think they're going to start off slow. That's my first opinion because they have to figure out who they are without these coordinators, without them leaving. They're going to start off slow. I feel like people are going to do the same thing where we're going to question Oh man, with like just like the Eagles a few years ago, be like, oh man, is their time up? Is Jared Goff? I think we're gonna hear those questions just because in the NFL, it's it's always recency bias. It's always what have you done for me lately? Um, I'll be honest, I like you said, Mike, it's all about these coordinators. Is it gonna be a big loss or not? We don't know yet.
Well, if you
I
got the
think
schedule right there, what's their first 4 games?
It is the Packers, Bears, Ravens, and Browns.
So 2-2 is totally possible there, I think.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's I think that's a good gauge on where you are with your coordinators at that point.
But then
Um,
but then after that though, then it's Bengals, Chiefs, Bucks, Lions, or Vikings.
yeah, I mean
that's
it's a murderer's row. It's
rough
not
first
it's
half,
not
man.
easy.
Oh no, sorry, excuse me, sorry. Then it's Commanders, Eagles after
Oh
that.
well,
That's tough.
yeah, that's a gauntlet. And honestly, Mike, like you said, they lost a center, and they went and got two rookies, to put on that offensive line, kind of
Yeah.
fill some gaps. One of whom is hurt by the way right now. They
Yes.
did also go real light in the wide receiver room and traded away Patrick. We talked about that on previous episode. Um, they currently right now they have three healthy wide receivers. Isaac, I'm gonna brutalize his last name.
Yeah.
Tesla. And Dominic
I,
Lovett
every
are
time I see
both
it, I
out.
just see Tesla. But yeah,
I
no,
know.
Dominic
And
Lovett
two
is
A's there.
yeah. But
But Dominic Lovett's also battling injury. Tate
Yep.
Ratledge, the guard they drafted in the third round, it's hurt or is hurt right now. On the other side of the ball, Talik Williams is hurt, a defensive tackle. So like there are some injury gaps here for them that they're trying to deal with on top of right, dealing with the issue of that insane schedule that they're going to go out on top of dealing with replacing two coordinators. I don't think that over under is actually that bad. If you were asking right now, they're 10-7. Like if you're just asking me, like straight up, when you make the case on that schedule, and then you look at these gaps and see how light they are right now offensively, due to some of those injuries, and knowing that they're going to have that kind of stutter start with the coordinators, man, I think that's really real.
I
I
don't
will
mind
say
that at all.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this. I was actually curious. I was pulling up some of the over-unders for last season because, looking at the over-unders here, like seeing that there's four teams kind of in that next tier of like 11 and a half games being Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philly, and then Detroit being in that 10 and a half win range. I was like, that does feel kind of low. But looking last season, there were actually only two teams that had an over under of 11 and a half. One of them was the Chiefs and one of them was the Niners. And so the Lions still had the same 10 and a half win. And the over unders felt kind of low to me this year, but they're actually a little bit higher than even the previous year, just in general for, some of the higher end over under numbers. 10 and a half feels kind of low, but looking into it, I wonder if that is just a little bit of like cautious optimism for the team where it's like, oh yeah, the Lions, they won, 15 games last year. And I think that was probably, a little bit of we can't use that as a barometer for what the Lions are supposed to be, especially, given the coordinators going and all of the other
Yeah.
things with the roster you guys have talked about. I think my biggest question mark personally, and this is more just coming from a Rams fan who has seen Jared Goff play, there is a part of me who is really curious to see what Goff looks like with this coordinator change because obviously rookie year Jared Goff, Jeff Fisher team, we don't really hold that against him. That was just kind of a train wreck. But every other year that Jared Goff has played football and has looked pretty good, with his ups and downs kind of built in there, it's been Sean McVay, it's been Ben Johnson. So I am very
Yeah.
curious to see. I think the talent is there, and sometimes, he's a bit of a statue, and when you get that pressure, it can be a bit of a question mark. So some of the center stuff, like that relationship quarterback and center, does concern
That's
me.
huge.
And again, just from the coordinating side of things, there's some concerns there. So that is kind of like my, fantasy red flag of the Lions is like, what is Jared Goff going to look like when we kind of have a bit of a question mark of, there is a changeover, but it's not a guy that I think right now we would universally say like, oh yeah, the offensive mind of Sean McVay, the offensive mind of Ben Johnson. those question marks do give me some pause. And then to go with your saying with the schedule, it's not a favorable schedule at all. And the
Yeah.
division just in general is really tough. So now that I'm thinking about it, like Matt said 10-7. I was like, wow, that seems a little harsh. And then I'm thinking on it a little bit more, and I would still expect them to hit that over, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to be 10-7, which would feel like such a fall from grace, but that's just kind of like the reality of the season.
So let me also put this in perspective when the coordinator aspect, when Jared Goff gets that second year with the coordinator, you see his numbers take off, like absolutely take off. He went from 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions in 2017 to 2018 with 4,700 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. When he makes the switch over to the Lions in 2021, he has that first year about 3,300 yards, 19-8. I know he had a little bit of a shortened season, but then the next year jumps up to 4,400 plus 29-7. I think it like, again, to make the case, it just takes time for anybody. And Jared has been the living, breathing definition of a guy that just needs that time with his coach. And the consistency will get him there. But, and I know he's had the system, like he's had these players around him, so it's a little bit different. They're not going to stray that far from Ben Johnson, but they're competing.
Well, yeah, they said
Ben
they want to
Johnson,
keep the same. Yeah, they want to keep the same scheme as the mantra the whole time, right? They brought in an internal guy.
Yeah,
they brought in an internal guy that knows all the same language, all the same stuff. But the play calling is still different, right? Like Ben Johnson was the play caller, and now he is not. And so, like, and if everyone says Ben Johnson is that great of a play caller, like it's like, okay, can you lose that great play caller and still have that 15-win season? And I think we're all on the page that this brutal schedule, losing Ben Johnson, losing a starting center, which is probably the second most important. Yeah, second most important job on the line is center, apart from left tackle that deals with most of the pass rusher, right?
Yep.
Like, but he calls all the blocking schemes. The center does. So you're looking at all these things, and I don't necessarily disagree with you hard there, Matt. I think I had them as 11 wins and second in the division.
Yeah, sure. I think, but honestly, I think it's a lower ceiling than we had envisioned. Just because this was such a great team last year, it is a lower ceiling. By the way, you didn't mention fan favorite Dan Skipper got released by this team last week. Just throwing that out there. I'm curious where the rest of the division sits, because I think that's going to impact like how we really feel. Because there's a team I know we're going to talk about in just a moment that's definitely the talk of the division right now.
Yeah. Quick fantasy hit though, I would say Jahmyr Gibbs for sure. Amon-Ra St. Brown always.
Offense is still stacked for sure.
Yeah, keep going. But I do have question marks about Jared Goff, especially with that center issues and their tough schedule. Just because, like you said, his numbers go a little down first time coordinator.
Yeah, still saw late round get though. Like he's around 10.
Yeah, and if you have Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs, go ahead and grab Goff. You're just going to double up on points all over the place. Like that's the kind of thing, right? Yep. So,
by the way, when we're going, somebody asked me about this the other day. When we're talking about rounds that people get drafted, I am going off standard 10-man leagues. That is standard format in ESPN, Yahoo, everything. Yeah. So I can't get into like 12 and 14s with all your point variables and all that crud. So I just go Yahoo standard scoring and 10-man leagues when we give advice. Just
also, because Yahoo's the best, PPR. By the way.
Yeah, with PPR, right? It's got some sort of PPR involved.
Although Yahoo needs to help the commissioners out. Freaking desktop only is trash.
For sure.
I'm sick of that. But anyway.
All righty. Anybody else with 10-11 wins seem kind of fair for everybody? I think that's
I'd probably slot them at like the 11 would feel the most comfortable, and I think like 12 is kind of like a ceiling, just given again that division, that schedule this year pretty brutal.
Yeah. And just to mention real quick is Dan Campbell's a defensive guy, and so he's as the defensive head coach. I don't think defense is going to fall off that far. But I think there might be some hiccups with the offensive and play calling and situational play calling and things like that that might be kind of funky. Um, so let's move on to my next one here. I got I'm just going to jump into the Minnesota Vikings. So Sam Darnold moved over to the Seattle Seahawks. Um, so that's their starting quarterback from last year, right? A 14-win team loses their starting quarterback is a giant red flag. I don't care if you got a rookie that you like or not, which I mean, I'm still going to call JJ McCarthy a rookie because he didn't play at all
Hmm.
last year.
Yep.
So you got a rookie that you really like, played for Jim Harbaugh. He knows how to run a West Coast system, right? So that like you're kind of like, okay, he can sit in the pocket and throw the ball. That's fine. Um, they did get a new center as well with a new quarterback, so that's kind of a neat. I mean, they upgraded center right with Ryan Kelly. Um, that's good, right? We just talked about center play, but they upgraded to Ryan Kelly at center and let go their old one. Um, uh, Cam Robinson, offensive tackle's gone. Patrick Jones is second. One of their edge rushers is gone. Stephon Gilmore is gone. Uh, they did re-sign Aaron Jones, who was 1,000-yard guy last year. He did okay. In this offense, he was fine. They brought in Byron Murphy Jr., re-signed. Like I said, and then Will Fries came in as a guard, so they upgraded the guard position. They did bring in Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave as defensive tackles to solidify the middle of that defensive line. Uh, there was a lot of moves here. Jordan Mason, who's a big bruising back from the 49ers, came over to be that short yardage, gain 3 yards and a puff of smoke kind of guy that Aaron Jones just isn't anymore, right? He's not that. Aaron Jones has never been like that big bruiser every down kind of guy. So I think they're going to use them in a kind of back and forth. You're going to see Jordan Mason, by the way, probably steal some touchdowns from Aaron Jones in the goal line situations. Uh, Addison's out. He's been suspended because people are dumb. But they did bring in Adam Thielen to take his place for the first few games.
He's back.
So yeah, he's back. He knows the system. I don't think there's going to be any drop off between Addison or Thielen being in there. And eventually you're going to have all three. You're going to have Jefferson, Addison, Thielen. I think that's a fantastic wide receiver room. If
Thielen took
Thielen's
a
your
$2
number,
million pay cut just to be there.
just to be there, right?
Yeah.
Like he knew, yeah, it's fine. And he's going to be great. I think, like I said, Jefferson, Addison, Thielen is your receivers. You're a happy team. Let's see. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. Let's see. Jalen Naylor is injured as well. So that kind of hits that wide receiver room for the first couple weeks as well. So that you got really like two good wide receivers for the first few weeks, but I think they'll be fine. This defense is still off the charts great. I think if you're drafting this defense as one of the top three defenses, I think you're smart move. Their scheming, their blitzing is just, they've been great the last few years, and they're going to be right up there again. It's not, keep going for it. The over under for them is only 9.5 or 8.5. I think this team with a rookie quarterback, I had them at 9 wins. I have them at 9-8 because of JJ McCarthy.
I actually like that.
Otherwise this team is great. And if JJ McCarthy comes out and proves to be this great right out of the box rookie, then they might go over. I mean, they're going to go over that a couple games and maybe even push the Lions back down to third. But I have them finishing third in the division at 9 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think because the NFC North, they play the NFC East this year, so that is just hard no matter what. Again, with this division being a bloodbath, I think when we talk about the schedules, it's going to be similar with the Lions, the Vikings, the Bears, all these teams.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, this is going to be tough. And for JJ McCarthy, like he's got again tough schedule, tough lineup, especially early on. And so, I think 9 wins feels right. They won 14 games, but I do think that there was an element of like this team just kind of had just like this like Cinderella kind of marrying of Sam Darnold kind of emerging to maybe be a guy and revive his career when that wasn't even the plan, and I felt like they're kind of just riding a hot hand. We kind of saw that, kind of come to an end pretty early on, towards the end of the season. I mean, you can argue a lot of that could have just been, Sam Darnold. I'm sure we'll talk about that when we talk about the Seahawks later. But I think 9 was kind of where I have them too. And I don't think that that's necessarily bad. You see, because if JJ McCarthy ends up being their guy, I think they're very happy with how this season turns out. If he is their guy, he throws 25 to 28 touchdowns, 12 picks, 3,800 yards. I think that they're going to be very happy because this is someone they can build around and be their franchise guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn between like two different lines of thinking here because last year I was very much aboard Kevin O'Connell is this master like quarterback whisperer, offensive guru kind of guy, and that's ultimately why I was saying like Sam Darnold and no conversation can be the MVP or the offensive player of the year because he's being controlled by the mind. And we kind of saw how that unfolded. And in the same way, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but when I start talking about like, oh, the Seattle quarterback conversation now because of the Sam Darnold move there, I'm a little bit lower on that because I lean more Kevin O'Connell in this conversation
Yeah.
than Sam Darnold. And so I have a hard time, saying that last year and then coming into this year. And, when we talked to JJ McCarthy when he got drafted, I was not huge on that draft pick by any means. Didn't really love like what I was, he's a very simple quarterback, but I think
Yeah.
sometimes that can work to your advantage in a system like this. So I am very torn between, those two different kinds of takes here and where that ultimately lands me in this kind of like over under conversation. I will say, looking at their schedule, again, it's not very favorable, but the thing that I certainly don't like here, and obviously, they have some great weapons for JJ McCarthy, but I'm looking at some of the defenses that they're playing this year, and they have a couple of like, patty cake defenses like the Cowboys and the Bengals, but you're also playing, some elite edge rushers at the very least, or pass rushers. You're
In
playing the
division.
Steelers at some point. We're playing the Browns. We're playing the Eagles multiple times. We're playing the Chargers, who had a top
The
defense
Packers
last
twice
year.
now.
We're playing the Packers. The Commanders, another kind of patty cake. But even the Giants, like I'm not super high on the Giants as a team. We'll talk about them later.
That front
That
seven's
defense is
nasty.
not going to be fun to play as a rookie
Yep.
quarterback.
Yeah.
And so I say all this to say I do think JJ is going to look fine and he's going to have the weapons. He's going to have everything that is going to allow him to be a good quarterback. But I also don't love the rookie quarterback playing those kinds of defenses with those kinds of star players on them. And so because of that, I want to lean in that like, 9-win range because I kind of agree like that's obviously a steep drop from last year, but I think a lot of things happened to allow them to win
Yeah.
that many games. And we kind of saw how that petered off at the end. I have a really hard time seeing them as a 9-win team because of some of those things. I would almost take like just barely take the under and call them like
Oh,
an 8-win team. I think that might be because I'm also a little bit higher on another one of the teams here in this
Yeah.
division. So I'm kind of, coin flip between who's going to be third or fourth, maybe a little bit. But because of that, I do think I'm leaning towards the under. I'm leaning towards them maybe being an 8 and 9 team, and kind of taking fourth place in that division. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. But again, those two different kinds of takes are really playing tug of war with each other.
I got to go at a couple of things here. The big things for the Vikings last year, as much as Sam Darnold was successful with the Kevin O'Connell system, and they have a premier wide receiver room when Jordan Addison's healthy and all that. You got to look at the defensive side of the ball. There's still a guy who is calling that defense and setting
So
that
good.
defense, who is absolutely elite. This team was second in rushing yards allowed last year, fifth in points allowed in the NFL. They did struggle with that older secondary, which was a huge part of our emphasis in our preview last year when we talked about the age of that secondary. Harrison Smith, really the only mainstay that's still in that secondary this year, as they've gotten a lot younger.
They got younger.
Um,
Yep.
Absolutely. Pulled in a few key free agents that were going to make a few more dollars than their teams wanted to pay. But namely Byron Murphy coming out of Arizona. And I'm going to forget his name that came over from the Eagles. Of course I am right now. But I like the fact that they kept this coaching staff intact. We've said it many times. Brian Flores deserves a head coaching job, does not have one because he sued the NFL. 100% the only reason he doesn't have one.
I would agree.
Absolutely the only reason. He is absolutely a great head coach, and should be again someday. But they kept all that coaching staff together, made some significant changes where it counts, but then kept a lot of things. I have a couple of small question marks about this team, but other than that, I see them really also in that same 10-win range. And the reason being is that coaching staff is that strong. It's that good, and it matters. I've been watching this last week, the Cowboys doc on Netflix, which is a little bit painful as a 49er fan to watch certain portions of the 90s.
I've actually been watching that as well. Pretty good.
I've not seen it yet.
Really conveniently skipped a lot of what the Niners did in the 80s, but that's fine. Jerry Jones' story really does start in 89, so I get it. But I've been watching that, and you see the struggle between the Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer eras. I was watching the Troy Aikman episode where him and Barry Switzer just losing on each other while Dion's there. And, they're in the middle of just an incredible season. And these guys, their egos are just done, like completely done. Barry's too loose and chill, and Troy's too demanding, and they just can't take it anymore. And then Barry flat out accuses Troy of being a racist in a one-on-one meeting. Great drama, by the way. Definitely recommend. But I say all that because the coaching styles were just different, and it was a great player group that they had improved on even. But here you have this like difficulty and strife that this team's facing, and they don't really improve. They have the one season and then it's over because the power struggle becomes real. This team has a great coaching staff. This is complete opposite of the Lions. They kept everybody. The only concern that I really, really have is, as you guys have pointed out, rookie quarterback scenario. I understand it's the second year, but all he's been doing is sitting in meeting rooms. This is where it becomes real. And I don't love the Javon Hargrave pickup for them. He's never played nose tackle, and they'll be shifting him to that role this year. He's always played in a 4-man line, and he'll be playing over center. Not saying he can't hold and beat a double team, because he can. Has proven
he's got those big long arms,
but that is a different position for him. But again, I just got done saying Brian Flores is awesome, and he is. So we'll see what all of that means. But I don't think this is as low an expectation here as maybe you guys had put out. I will disagree a little bit and just say I see them in the realm of the Lions, but for completely different reasons. The Lions have the personnel and not as much the coaching. The Vikings have the coaching and are going to be bringing along some personnel. I think both things are difficult, but land these teams in very similar places.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, if Jay McCarthy comes out and he's adequate, it boosts their win total up a game or two, right? So it goes from 9 to like 11, right? And then they'll be fighting the Lions for that second place in this division. I'll get to my first place team here in a minute, but that's what I'm seeing as well. Like, is that consistency of JJ McCarthy, like, and he spent 4 years with Jim Harbaugh, like the one of the quarterback whisperers, right? Like what he's done with so many different quarterbacks in his tenure between college and pros is phenomenal. And so he knows the West Coast system already. He's already run this. He's basically the same style of West Coast system that he's in now, right? And so it's like, okay, so he should know how to do it, but he doesn't. He's never done it at the pace of the NFL level, and that is a different animal.
But
and
man,
but he sat for a year, and you got to see it, right? So
you got to sit, and also we talk about like the things that are helpful for rookie quarterbacks: a good defense, a run game, and also on top of that, he's going to an offensive mind, and so he has everything lined up for him to be successful. It's just a question of will he.
And I will say, fantasy-wise, their run game is the biggest question for me. You bring in Jordan Mason, who is a bruiser of a back, and he can run and he does run between tackles very well.
It should be.
And Aaron Jones is still a good pass catcher and can get to the edge still a little bit, but he's getting up in age. And he has his off years as well. Like, he's always had an off years from time to time. So You're looking at that and you're like, injuries. And so you're just like, I don't like their run game as much as I like the rest of this team. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you still have some questions in the secondary of the younger guys you brought in.
Sure.
So those are some big questions that I just don't feel like the teams above them seem to have as much. I don't know if that makes sense. But you're right about the coaching. The coaching is phenomenal. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that every time the 49ers for the past like 12 years have paid, or, have faced the Vikings, they've lost. Like no matter how good the 49ers team is, this Flores just gives them fits and
Sucks.
bothers. Like that, he is such a good play caller. So for that defense. And so you're just like, okay, so let's bring that all together. And I don't disagree with you that 11 is totally possible. I think JJ McCarthy does stumble a little bit with some of these teams that he has to face
Yeah.
early on.
Yep.
That puts this team at that 9 wins. That's where I'm at.
That's
But
fair. That's fair. And I feel like we're splitting hairs a little bit, but we're doing it because of the unknowns.
Yeah.
There's just going to be some variance there. I mean, I could be wrong. This is a 9-win team. It would be wrong. It's an 8-win team. It really does. The quarterback position, the most important position in sports. Say it all the time. What is he? We don't know.
No.
But I got to believe that if O'Connell said he can do it, that he can do it. O'Connell made a lot out of a little. I mean, an incredible year out of a little last year. That's and at the end of the day, also McCarthy can literally just go, they're out there somewhere with those boys.
And that's true. And so draft these wide receivers, guys.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So let's move on to the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
Stop.
This team could be better, I think, if it wasn't for a first-time head coach. This guy's never been a head coach before. Ben Johnson is coming in. They've changed. So Joe Thuney, Jonah Jackson guard, Drew Dahlman got a new 3-year deal for center. Like they revamped this entire interior offensive line, which was literally a sieve last year. And Williams was running for his life all year last year. And they're like, just get rid of all of it and let's bring in brand new guys that are proven good players. So we're looking at that. We're just like, okay, this line is taken care of. We've got Grady Jarrett that comes in for defensive line help. Odian Dio Odia Yingbo. There you go. Odia Yingbo
one
came in. I did. It's terrible, but he comes in to help with that defensive end spots for pass rushing situations. They've got a couple new wide receivers: Zacchaeus, Duvernay, Nick McLeod, another cornerback that came in to help them out in their third down packages and things like that. So
I like that they let Keenan Allen go. I like
yes.
Because honestly, you got too much there. Like you have DJ and Odunze already. Don't really know what Odunze is yet, but like what DJ can do.
He's big.
He's big.
Yeah, and you just got these guys seemingly running in each other's space.
And you got Loveland that you drafted.
I was going to say that's probably what you were about to mention, and that was what he needed the underneath more than anything, not the vertical, right?
Well, and then they also brought in Luther Burden III from Missouri, who I really liked as a wide receiver.
I mean, we had him as like the third ranked
target.
I think in our draft, we had him as like the third best receiver in this draft.
Yeah, and then after that, they brought in a couple extra linebackers to help with this defense. Or a linebacker and a cornerback later in the draft, which was a good draft. So we just got to remember, like, we thought their draft was really good. I like what they've done. I still don't know what Caleb Williams is. He hasn't had the time in the pocket his career so far to actually show us.
But let's also remember when he got his coach fired last year, and he did have the time. Like, his head just doesn't seem to be in it all the time. Like,
which was a question coming out of college.
Things that you don't do that you should know how to do as a quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah. But does Ben Johnson help fix all that? That's the question.
I mean, dude, again, rookie quarterbacks, like, if you have an offensive coach, you're that much better. Like, if you have a defensive coach, like, it's always a nightmare. Like, when has it really ever worked of a defensive coach and a rookie quarterback? When has it ever worked? Unless you've got a great, offensive play caller. But those guys get hired all the time. We look at it. They always go.
And that coaching situation was objectively bottom of the barrel.
With a new defensive minded coach,
yeah.
I do want to say, like, one of the key parts of this offense, I think, is people have also forgotten about in fantasy. Keep looking at this. Swift is being reunited with Johnson. And Swift was great under Johnson in Detroit. So you're looking at this guy who's just a couple years removed from that, still in his prime, who's now back with the coach that got him on the map. and got him, trade value for him to Chicago.
Don't hate
Like
that.
you're looking at
Yeah.
DeAndre Swift, and he's got no competition in that backfield, but he's fully capable of running everything Johnson wants to do with this offense.
I mean,
And I think that
dude,
actually elevates because he knows this system.
Swift had
So
almost 1,000 yards rushing. He had 960. I didn't realize that.
no, this is a phenomenal
Okay.
pickup, and he's going way late in most drafts. So keep an eye on him, by the way.
And he's going to catch out of
he's
the
in the
backfield.
Kamara realm.
He catches out of the backfield. Yeah,
He's
he's going like
26.
the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth roundish. Like,
Yep.
just keep your eye on him.
Mhm.
And so like we're looking at this, and I like what the Bears are going to do. I think more than what they're doing this year. I like what they're going to do like next year more than they do what they've done this year. I think you've got a lot of new players coming in. This brand new line needs time to meld. You got a quarterback that we don't know who he is yet. Brand spanking new offensive coordinator turned into a head coach, which is a big jump. Not all coaches make that jump very well. So, and depending on his coaching staff that he's put in and how they react to the new situation. So I think the Bears, I have them in fourth place in this division. I have them at that 7-8 wins, kind of exactly where they were last year. I don't think they fall off. I do think they get a little better offensively, but I think with the competition in division, it's a tough road. I think it's a tough road. I think they struggle in division a lot more than they do even necessarily out of division. And so I think that's where we're at is right around 8 wins. I almost wanted to say 7, but I think 8's kind of. I'll go with 7. I'll just land on 7 and let my words speak for themselves.
I mean,
Yeah.
just looking it through though, like, yes, there's some yes and no's to that. They're starting with the Vikings, then go to the Lions. This is one of the few divisions that gets actually plays 2 division games in the first 3 weeks.
Right off the bat, yeah.
Yeah. They're going to be hosting the Cowboys. They're playing at the Raiders and at the Commanders back to back. Like them over the Saints, obviously. Giants should be a really competitive game down in early part of November. Browns should be a winnable game for them in December. They got to play the Packers twice in December. Hate that. Absolutely hate that. And then they're closing their last 3 weeks are Packers, 49ers, Lions. Don't love that for them. I totally get how you get to 7. I think one of the big things that we got to consider, every division last year had a major injury either at quarterback or running back. Every single division, major injury, a number one's going down. If that were to happen in this division, let's say, Love's already been hurt before. What if he misses 6 games? He misses both those games in December trying to come back from an injury. Totally normal thing. That changes some stuff. These divisional wins become more gettable. And I think the trick for them is health. And one thing that I like for them above others is young teams usually stay healthy longer. They don't have as many reps on those bodies. Absolutely true. And so I do like them down the road to maybe snatch some wins. Like them in that 8, 9 is their ceiling.
Yeah.
9's the ceiling, 8's gettable, 7's disappointing.
Yeah.
I think that's right in that window. But injuries are going to play a factor in this division because these guys are going to beat the crap out of each other. Like, this is a bloodbath division.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to struggle in division. I think truly are.
Yeah, and but I think they're also going to get some home and homes. Like,
yeah, I think most of these teams are going to win. Probably, I see them. Most of these teams splitting most of their division games in this division.
It's going to be that kind of year.
Like it's that kind of year. Yeah.
Yeah, but the tough part is going to be they don't really get what other last place division teams get. They don't get an awesome schedule when you look because they're playing the NFC East, which only got better, and we're going to talk about in a future episode this week. But that division got great, in my opinion, took some big leaps, and I'm excited to talk about that one a little bit. They're also having to play the randos. I mean, drawing the 49ers after you took last place sucks, but the Niners had the injuries, right? last
Yep.
year. So that's why you end up in that scenario. Yeah, they're just got a little luck of the draw with the schedule here. That's not going to help, but they're going to beat the crap out of people. And I love the youth of this team. I can't say enough nice things about Burden. That's a great draft pick. And I love that they have a true slot receiver who is a target monster and with the ball in his hand is terrifying. That is a less big Debo Samuel. Like he literally hits the crap out of people with the ball in his hands. He loves lowering her shoulder. All good tape. But yeah, man, probably in that 8-9 ceiling. I agree. 7 would be disappointing. They need to be better than that. But that's on Caleb Williams, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I'm really kind of clued into this week 3 through 6 part of their schedule here. Obviously, you mentioned we're starting off with the Vikings and then you go to the Lions. Not a great way to start your season. I think you have to split one of those, and then you are looking at Cowboys, Raiders, Commanders, Saints. And I think you need to go at least 3-1 there, if not 4-0 if you start off 0-2. And that's really going to be, I think, what sets the tone for your season. Because we saw last year they were kind of like, what are the Bears? Can they maybe like be a little cheeky wild card? And then ultimately the Hail Mary kind of puts a nail in their season.
Yeah.
And that was kind of around that same time frame. So I think you really need to capitalize on playing Cowboys, Raiders,
Yeah.
Commanders, Bears. I do think, not to talk too much Commanders, that they're going to slide a little bit, but those are all pretty favorable defenses to play at that point in the season. You get a couple of rough ones out of the way with the Vikings and the Lions, and if you can split those, if you're looking at maybe starting your season like 4-2, you have to build off that momentum and hope that you can get past teams like the Bengals and their offense, not so much their defense, or get past the Giants defense, not so much their offense. And then you kind of see yourself in that murderer's row to end the season.
So
And again,
bad.
to your point, you do have the Packers and the Lions at home if we are splitting those games in those last 3 of the season. So
Yeah.
again, you kind of just have to hold on, make it through that last stretch of the season, win those last few home games. And then I think you could be looking at, again, I think they're a third place team here. It really depends on what the wild card situation ends up being. I find it really hard to say that you're going to be a wild card in the NFC right now with that logjam kind of in like the middle tier teams. You have to win at least 10 games, and I think that might
Yeah.
be a little above where they're at right now. And I agree with you, Mike. I think they are a next season is the season where I would expect them to be a 10 plus game team. But I have them at 9-8, and then I would have ultimately the Vikings at that 8-9 spot, kind of flip flopped there. But yeah, really tough schedule for the North this year. That is brutal, and that's really what it comes down to for a lot of these teams for me.
If it goes the wrong way, they go 1-7 in their last 8 games.
Exactly,
And
which
it's
is why you
very
have to
feasible.
hit that first 6 weeks of the season and be, a 4-2, maybe even get lucky, get a break against the Vikings week 1 with JJ McCarthy, and maybe see if you can start 5-1.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a brutal stretch.
Yep. That is nasty. The longer I look at this, I'm like, you're gonna have to pray those veteran quarterbacks are not playing for the Steelers and the Browns.
It's going to be tough.
Like that's yeah. Jeez.
All right, so I got my last team of this division here. Let's hit to the Green Bay Packers, whom by now, if you've been keeping up with the math here, I have them as winning this division. And what flipped it was the trade this last week. I had them close with the Lions in the number 2 spot, and then that at Micah Parsons addition, I think really adds something to this team that they just haven't had.
Mhm.
That absolute pass rush. The problem being, though, I will say this up front, is Micah Parsons can be run on. If you run at Micah Parsons, he can be got. I mean, every time the Niners have faced him in the past here, several years, is Shanahan literally just runs straight at him and CMC just eats up yardage, right? So he can be got in the run game, but boy, when that guy can pin his ears back, there's nobody else like him in the league. So I think I really like this addition. I like. Otherwise, this team didn't really change much. There's almost no real changes. They brought in kind of some extra backups from the Eagles and for their line and whatnot. But this is a solid team last year, a good mid-range team that just is very young and has, I think, would solidify a little bit more. I think the real story here is adding what I truly think is a true number one receiver in Matthew Golden. It's a
Hmm.
running joke that this Green Bay Packers team has had, 12 number two and three receivers, and they don't have a true number one. Matthew Golden was my favorite receiver coming out of the draft. He was my number one guy playing for Texas. I thought he was the best receiver in the nation for almost the entire year, even though he's a smaller, quick guy, right? So he's got that like Tyreek Hill feel to him, just that smaller, quick, fast, cans go, blazing speed. But I think that's what this team needed. I think
Well,
they need a guy that can run routes like he's an absolute pro, which is what he does. They have some speed already in the wide receiver room, but they're like straight line speed. Matthew Golden is a cut, Cooper Kupp in his prime kind of cut receiver, but
Hmm.
then he has even more speed than that. So you're just looking at like I like what they did. They bring in him for Love. I still like Love. I still like him as a quarterback and what he brings for this team. Um, all they really did was they lost Michael Clark, who's a great defensive interior lineman. They're going to miss him. They added Parsons, like I said, a couple practice squad practice squad depth for this team. Great, love to have those extra linemen. That's great, but it's that Matthew Golden and some more defensive depth in the draft. It was like Golden and a bunch of defensive players, and I think that's just there's no flags on this team, which is I love that. There's no big losses and a big gain. I love that consistency. I think they were really good last year. Adding extra. I think Josh Jacobs is going to eat this year. I think he's going to run and run and run and run. And I think this team's going to get to that 12 win to take this division
Yeah,
right there at the end of the year.
and all LaFleur does is like win regular season games, like
Yeah.
with or without Aaron Rodgers. That's just kind of been like his MO every year. And sure, we've seen, some playoff stuff maybe with Jordan Love not look so great. But another year of experience. Obviously Micah being the additive here on top of, everything else that you mentioned. They do have right now their sixth on the list for Super Bowl winners, behind the usual suspects being like
Yeah.
Baltimore, Buffalo, Philly, Kansas City, Detroit. Green Bay is right there now. And the one question I would have, with them again piling up regular season wins, is there's like a certain level of expectation now that I don't think has been there previously. And again, just with being in that division, I'm really curious to see if they can live up to that expectation. But I think that regular season consistency does ultimately set you up. If you can win this division, you're maybe looking at getting that first round bye, which I think would be huge for a team like this.
That's possible.
Because if you're just saying, hey, I just got to win a few games and we could be Super Bowl champions, then I think that's a really good way of getting there. But this is a team where, man, I'm really excited because I love Jordan Love. I think he's got a crazy arm talent. But again, the wide receiver room has been a huge question mark for me for a long time. And so I'm really excited to see what they can do here. And defensively, they got the piece. So
Yeah.
they're looking to make a run. To me, it's just can you live up to now what the expectation is? And sometimes those younger teams, it can be hard to not crumble under that expectation. So that's what I'm looking for. Again, schedule not great, but I think maybe even a little bit of an easier schedule than some of the other teams we've been
Well,
looking
that's the
at.
third place. They got third place last year, so
Yeah,
they get the slightly
exactly.
slightly
So
easier schedule than Minnesota and the Lions do, which is kind of
yeah,
where
you're
I'm
getting the
breaking down.
Panthers and the
Yeah,
Cardinals in there, you got some nasty defenses you're playing still. You got the Broncos this time around. But man, they are really set up both schedule wise, talent wise, and kind of just timing wise. Like everything's coming together. I know I've been hearing a lot more pundits out there picking Green Bay as their like Super Bowl pick out of the NFC. I don't know if I'm going to go quite that far, but they're on the short
yeah.
list now for me after this trade.
I mean, I think they are on a top list, but also like LaFleur's done nothing in the playoffs. Like
That's true. Yeah,
that like it's come to that point with me. Like, yeah, he's a great regular season guy. Cool. He'll win you 12, 13 games regular season, and then as a first round exit pretty much every single time. And so that's my big thing is where I go, I'm not so sure. Just because
I
he's had MVP Rogers. Like he's had MVP Rogers multiple times, and then he for some reason, LaFleur, all the things that he did in the regular season go out the window when it comes to the playoffs. And like the game
I
I
will
think
plans that
some of
they
say,
that's
had.
on Aaron, though, if I'm being honest. A lot of that to
yeah,
me is
that
on Aaron
was
Rodgers
Some
and
of
how
that
he's
could be on
playing in the
Aaron. Yeah,
postseason.
for sure. Like absolutely. Yeah, he's also like laid goose eggs for sure. But also like LaFleur's done. I'm sorry. I'm not going to believe in someone who's literally like can't even win playoff games like at all.
I
As like
will
They
I
had
will
like the
caveat
youngest
this real
roster in
quick.
the league.
Yeah,
You
let
know?
me caveat this real quick though. LaFleur has lost almost exclusively in the playoffs to his mentor Kyle Shanahan, who runs
yeah,
the offense better than he does and knows the offense better, and so their defense was able to counter that LaFleur offense because of the knowledge I think Shanahan has. Right? They both come from Mike Shanahan, but Kyle Shanahan's obviously his son and was lived that life. And the LaFleur brothers, who the Rams picked up for their run game coordinator this year
Mhm.
as well. Watch out for that, by the way, guys. But if you look at they run the same offense as Shanahan, like the exact same offense. And so you're looking at that and you're just like, is that the issue? Like if you go look at it, it's the Niners take down the Packers like every single time they make the playoffs. That's the way it's been. So I'm not saying it won't happen this year. I pray it does, but because I love my Niners. But let's it's hard to gauge when you have these teams that are losing to the team that makes it to the Super Bowl, right? Like, so you're just like, well, was that really
Mhm.
bad, or is that just the other? They just got run over. It's like the Niners are really good; they make it to the Super Bowl, but the Kansas City Chiefs just run them like can just win out. You know, like does that make the Niners bad? Well, no, but I don't disagree with you. They've struggled in the playoffs, and it's very obvious.
Well,
And I want to see what they have.
let's look for the reasonings where the struggles were. I mean, in the specific, like we can definitely toss some of that to Rodgers and not making certain plays in key situations. That's fair. We can also look back historically and note that the Shanahan offenses have ran all over the defense
Yeah,
of the Packers. That's happened in two of those specific playoff games.
they threw eight
Um,
passes in one of them, 8 passes in one of those games,
yep,
and ran the rest of the time.
yeah. Jimmy G quite literally walked the entire game. But you look at what they've done, and I would say from on the offensive side of the ball, they have gotten younger in some key spots. They struggled to keep a healthy offensive line, namely the tackle positions together last several years. Rasheed Walker is the slotted left tackle. That's it. End of game. Zach Tom on the right hand side. That's it. They know what their bookends are. They went and got Aaron Banks to solidify their left guard spot. Me and Mike can tell you he played next to Trent in San Francisco, and it was a mixed review. There were weeks where he just absolutely dominated, and other weeks where he looked lost, or even
Disappeared,
at
basically.
times out of shape. Like he plays at a pretty big weight. He's been in that like 335, 340 range at times. So that'll be a little interesting, but they did get younger. Again, I won't go into depth on Matthew Golden. I do agree that's going to be a game changer for them. They finally went and got somebody that matters as a wide receiver. They will be without Christian, however. Do you remember he is on the pup? So he's going to be out for 4. Christian Watson is, and has been the technically number 1 receiver, though Jaden Reed and Romeo Dobbs have clearly filled that role off and on statistically. The issue that I have, though, on that offense is it's not deep. If you look past the ones, you'll see a name you'll recognize in like Luke Musgrave, a tight end. We've watched Malik Willis play football. I don't understand why he's still in the league. Don't get it. He's got like one good half under his belt. You can't name, and I know this would be a struggle on a lot of teams, but you can't name any of their offensive linemen that are not starting. And I like look at their running back room and go, who the crud are the other 2 guys playing behind Josh Jacobs? I know they're not going to see the field that much because Josh Jacobs is a 3-down back, but little concerned on that. Yeah, we can talk about the other side of the ball. So again, concerned about the depth of the offense a little bit. You look at the other side of the ball though, and that's pretty deep and like Mike said, hasn't changed. There's just a lot that has not changed. And when you look at the depth over there, much better. That trade for Micah makes perfect sense. Putting Van Ness as the rotational piece behind Parsons and Rashawn Gary is super smart. Because Van Ness is effective in situations, but he should not be an every down pass rusher. Just shouldn't. And that's clearly where he's headed. But that's my biggest concern, though, is just the depth on the offensive side. The depth on the defense, however, complete opposite. Looks great, and they look really poised. Also, like that they're stashing Mecole Hardman, by the way, on the practice squad.
Yeah, that was good. I almost mentioned that.
Yeah, he's going to make the roster at some point.
Well, he's going to return for him, right? He's going to be the return guy the first few games. He's easily.
Not right now. They currently they're supposed to have Reed, and then how do you say his name? Keyshawn Nixon is going to be in there as the kick returner, but we'll see what they decide to do with Golden. That he could be a factor in either of those scenarios too. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of interesting pieces there. But I don't disagree here. This is the prize of the division. I'm at 13. I feel pretty good about it. I think they're just going to beat teams. But I'm also jaded like Grant is. Forget them in the playoffs. No money's going on that. Absolutely none.
I like it. Well, that's it for our NFC North. I think we got. I think for the most part, I got Green Bay, Lions, Vikings, and the Bears in that order. Is how I have. I think most of us are fair. I think for Jameson, you have the middle there switched.
Yeah, I have the Bears Vikings flip flop there. Right otherwise, like the over unders, I think this is probably the team that's maybe more exceeding. I believe I have the over unders here. Because Green Bay right now they're at 10.5, and I probably do have them closer to 12. So I think they're the furthest from where their line is over or under. But yeah, just flipping those last two spots is really the only difference I have here.
Yeah, I like
two playoff teams in this division.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Green Bay and Detroit.
I mean, my big question mark is if the Bears are ahead of schedule and they can get to 10 games, maybe this is our three team division.
This could be that surprise if Ben Johnson comes in and he's just a star coach, head coach. I mean, it really could be that surprise team. There's a surprise team every year. I think we got
two other divisions to talk about that we all feel pretty good about. At least two teams making it from those divisions. So there's only so many playoff spots, and I'm excited to get into the next. And we're going to dive in again a little further on the next episode. Continue through the divisions here. Continue to duke it out. And at the end on Thursday, we'll be releasing what we believe are the playoff teams and our Super Bowl hopefuls. So stay tuned as we continue the breakdown from one division to the next. We'll catch you guys on the next one.